Good morning. You're watching and listening to Unity of Springfield in Springfield, Missouri. This is Sunday morning, January 17th, 2021, and this is the adult education class, commonly known as our New Thought World Religions class. And I am Paul Day, and I'm the speaker today, and I'm going to be talking on the subject of happiness. Actually, perfect happiness. Most of my material is taken from the book Lesson 101, Perfect Happiness by Dr. Jon Mundy. Now, Dr. Mundy is a personal friend of mine and has spoken at Unity of Springfield a few times. Dr. Mundy is director of one of the founders of All Faith Seminary International in New York City, a seminary where in 2012 I was ordained on Park Avenue. Dr. Mundy is one of the foremost teachers and lecturers on A Course in Miracles, and this is primarily the focus of his work and has been for the many decades since the inception of A Course in Miracles. John personally knew the scribe of A Course in Miracles and was even a friend and client of Dr. Helen Schuchman back in the 1970s when A Course in Miracles first came out. So most of this talk is taken from this book of his, and I want to just put it up on the screen for you. Oops. Well, this book was published in 2014, and John has written numerous books, and this is just one of the gems in his collection. So let's get started with our class, and I always like to start off by reading the Daily Word for today. The Daily Word first published in 1924 and has been a source of inspiration through its affirmations and messages for millions for close to 100 years, and I'm thrilled to continue advocating for its abundance and its growth. And some of our congregants in the past have even contributed to these daily words of inspiration, and you can too if you're so inspired. The names of the authors are never recorded, and what a blessing to be so inclined to tap into that inner source and to be able to provide comfort, healing, and love to those around the world. Today's daily word is dream. Now I like to look at this as a dream coming from the inner teacher. I turn my dreams into reality. Some of the most audacious, bold, history-making events began as dreams, born in the imagination of those who understood the promise and potential of humanity and worked to realize their vision. Even if my dreams do not change the world, they have the power to change my life. Today, I remember those whose dreams were fueled by their hard work, their faith, and their determination. I look to their example when my dreams feel far away and I'm running low on hope. I rekindle my dreams through imagination, which keeps them vivid. My strength helps me remain committed to their realization, and my zeal renews my enthusiasm to work toward creating the life and the world of my dreams. And from Joel, your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. So I want to get started today by centering on the vision of happiness or joy. What does it mean to be truly happy? Jason Demmer, a writer for Incorporated magazine, wrote that there are 7 traits which are found to be in persons who claim to be the most happy. I'm going to put these up on the screen so you might see them as I talk about them. It's common knowledge that happiness is about more than the objective wealth or what you do in life. It's about your perspective and about how you react to things. These are the 7 critical traits that only genuinely people have. Oops. Oh boy. I think, let me go back here. Well, my slideshow is not working, or at least I don't know how to make it work anyway. Okay, let's see, try it again here. Go this way. Okay, Jason Demers. Gratitude is the number one. Gratitude is essential for happiness. You have to truly appreciate everything you have in life in order to be satisfied with it. Express your gratitude openly and often. Present focus. Happy people tend to live in the moment. They aren't preoccupied with things they've done in the past, and they aren't constantly thinking about the future. It doesn't matter whether these thoughts are positive or negative. You could think very positively about the future, but if you aren't focused on the present moment, you aren't going to be happy in the present moment. It's important to remember the past, but it's harmful to dwell in it. Just like it's important to plan for the future, but it's harmful to obsess over it. Focus on being happy right now. Humor. Humor is also important no matter who you are or where you work. Truly happy people are typically able to find humor in almost anything. Laughing is shown to be beneficial not only for your emotional health, but also for your physical health. It releases endorphins, it helps you relax, it helps you manage stress better. Even the simple act of smiling can carry some of these effects. So start laughing and smiling wherever you can and surround yourself with others who appreciate humor. Self-confidence. Confidence goes a long way. Having faith in your own abilities makes you less stressed. You spend less time worrying about whether or not you're good enough to accomplish something and more time actively trying to accomplish it. When you feel confident, your doubts and apprehensions don't weigh you down, and you can focus on what's in front of you. It is possible to train yourself to be more confident by practicing positive thinking and remembering your skills instead of your faults. Adaptability. Life changes far more frequently and more unpredictably than most of us would like. New obstacles range from a closed road on your normal commute to a natural disaster that destroys your home, ranging from the irritating to the devastating. But the happiest people in life aren't the ones who focus on the interference or the obstacle. They're the ones who focus on finding the best way around the obstacle. They simply find another way forward and they proceed. Optimism. The power of positive thinking cannot be overstated. Simply believing that things will work out in the end will help you manage your stress on a regular basis. And think more positively about your current situation. Optimists find that the best in everything, they find the best in everything, and they aren't ever consumed with the need to search for faults. Constantly viewing the world through a positive lens will make the world seem more positive, and you'll be happier to live in it as a result. Fostering optimism can be tough, especially if you're used to a cynical line of thinking. But with practice, it's possible to change your outlook. And the last one is intangible values. Finally, happy people aren't obsessed with tangible rewards or destinations. They aren't worried about getting into a certain position, making a certain amount of money, or having certain material things. They're more concerned with the intangible parts of life: friendship, fun, and family. They prioritize experiences over possessions, and they don't try to measure their lives in terms of how much wealth they have. Happiness isn't about reaching a destination or achieving a goal. It's about enjoying the journey that is life. Staying grateful for what you have, focused on the present, and positive, no matter what comes at you, can help you finally unlock the happiness you deserve. You're in control of your own emotions, so maintain a better attitude and a better outlook, and happiness is sure to follow. So using these attributes of happiness as a foundation, let's get started in hearing what Dr. Jon Mundy has to say about perfect happiness. I'm going to start off with a story which John tells. So there's a woman, and she's a guest in a hotel, and she calls up the front desk and says, "There's a naked man walking around in the apartment directly across the street from my room. You must do something." The manager goes up to her room to investigate, and he looks out her window across the street and says, "Ma'am, you can only see down to his waist. You don't know. He may only be missing his shirt." No, she says, "he is completely naked." "How do you know that?" asks the manager. "Just stand on the bed," she insists, "and you will see." So John emphasizes, and here we go. I'm going to try and get this slideshow to work a little bit better for me. It's not what we look at that matters. It's what we see. We manifest what we make judgments about, and we will continue to manifest everything we make judgments about until we stop judging what we manifest. If you don't like what you are manifesting, stop judging it. When we don't judge where we are or who are we here with, we get to be happy. Let's look at what John calls GPS, God's plan for salvation. Here's another John story. "My doctor insisted that I come to see you," the patient told the psychiatrist. "Goodness knows why. I'm healthy, happily married, and secure in my job. Lots of money in the bank, lots of friends, no worries." Said the psychiatrist, reaching for his notebook. "And how long have you been like this?" So true happiness isn't something we often witness in our culture, but there are those we recognize occasionally that we suspect have found at least part of the secret formula. To Dr. Mundy, God's plan for salvation is one of the secrets to that formula. So taken from a Course in Miracles perspective, within the framework of this world, perfection is impossible. Ultimately, however, which means now, there is no ego. And this leads us to perfect happiness. What? There is no ego? Oh my gosh! All I hear about in this world is of the ego. So what in the world is he, or A Course in Miracles for that part, talking about? And this is taken from the text. The Holy Spirit begins by perceiving you as perfect. To perceive yourself this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. That is because it is the acknowledgement that you are not in this world, for the world is unhappy. And that's taken from A Course in Miracles. So how can this text have the gall to say, you are not in this world? This is a world of war and disease and death. It's a world where women are brutalized, children are abused, and young men go about killing and maiming innocent people. The whole world has bought the ego's game. We are all egoholics, addicted to our dreams. It's hard to break an addiction if you don't know you have one. Still, for many people, there is an underlying suspicion that the world, as presented on TV, through the media, religion, and social mores, is not the way it is. Something is amiss. How did we go amiss? It's called the separation. In both the Bible and A Course in Miracles, for the Bible, it's the story of Adam and Eve. For A Course in Miracles, The separation was not a loss of perfection, but a failure in communication. A harsh and strident form of communication arose as the ego's voice. According to A Course in Miracles, depending on how we view historical time, for the past thousands or even millions of years, several billions of us have been trying to do what Adam and Eve tried to do, to think a thought outside the mind of God. It can't be done. It is, however, the thing that gave rise to this whole world and every aspect of it. So I'm going to give you a clue. A Course in Miracles sees the reality of mind with a capital M as being of God, and what we see of the world through our limited vision in mind with a small m. Our job is to get proper perception and recognize that who we truly are is a mind with a capital M. We are a part of God. That which we perceive outside of this is pure ego, which in reality doesn't even exist. So we have our true self with a capital S and our ego self with a small s. So A Course in Miracles makes 48 references to God's plan for salvation. This is our spiritual GPS. This process can be compared to a GPS as we know it, the Global Positioning System. Do what GPS asks, and you'll get home by the shortest route. Rather than following God's guidance, however, we say instead, I would rather do it myself. In the introduction to A Course in Miracles, it states, free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. All willful attempts to write the curriculum for ourselves, that is, create our own world, makes us unhappy. Happiness is learning how to turn decision-making back over to Spirit. The only voice that Jesus hears is that of the Holy Spirit. In this sense, Jesus and the Holy Spirit are one. When the ego is running the show, when anger, hostility, and resentment predominate, communication breaks down. What are the attributes of love, of God, or the Holy Spirit? Think about all those things that accelerate God and love and Holy Spirit. Again, I'm going to try and get this slideshow to working so you can see what I put down. Okay, I just came up with a few things off the top of my head. Calmness, contentment, creativity, happiness, joy, peace, love, beauty, divine order, confidence, courage, compassion, conviction, divine power, creativity, clarity, divine strength, humility, grace, gratitude, willingness and action, knowledge, wisdom, patience, purity, purpose, hope, trust, belief, truth, humor, kindness, abundance, givingness, consciousness, and the list goes on and on and on, and there's probably many, many, many other things that are attributes of God and love that I don't have here up on the screen. And what might be the attributes of the ego and the separation or traits outside the mind of God? Well, how about selfishness, worry, doubt, fear, anxiety, depression, despair, hostility, hatred, narrowness, inferiority, superiority, jealousy, envy, lack, defeat, death, or the fear of death, retaliation, violence, and again, you can go on and on and on about those things that are really outside of the mind of God. So when we're trying to listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit, Jesus, God, or our inner, truer self, we might want to concentrate on the attributes of goodness. Then we know we're listening to the right voice. Helen Schuchman, the scribe of the Course, said, the purpose of the Course was to help us become increasingly aware of the presence of the inner teacher. Despite the ego's attempts to conceal this part, it is still much stronger than the ego, although the ego doesn't recognize it. The Holy Spirit is in us in a literal sense, not in the body, but in the mind. And from the Course it states, the Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. His is the voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again. It is possible, even in this world, to hear only that voice and no other. It takes effort and great willingness to learn. The perfect lesson looks like this. Think of the Holy Spirit as the master computer that connects all the satellites. And in this sense, in the spiritual sense, we're going to exchange satellites for angels. Think of the Holy Spirit as the master computer that connects all the angels together and works perfectly through each one of us. The atonement is the process of undoing the illusion of separation and recognition of our perfect state. Atoning means undoing. What we're undoing is the ego and the perpetual process of wrong-mindedness. The atonement reinstates spirit, not the ego, as the guide for the mind. Now, on several occasions in the Gospels, Jesus says, "Let those who have ears hear." What does that mean? The ego cannot follow directions, being itself the director and often the dictator. Only those who follow the attributes of love can hear the mind of God. There is no strain in doing God's will as soon as you recognize that it is also your own. And that's A Course in Miracles. What does God's plan for salvation say when you missed your destination? You missed your mark. Recalculate. And that is what your spiritual GPS states. Recalculate. God is never in judgment, but God is saying to find your right guidance. It is up to each of us to decide if we're going to follow that guidance or if we will continue to try to do it our own way, in our own time, until time runs out. Without a proper GPS, the ego wanders around lost until it finally fails. So let's ask ourselves, why aren't we happy? As we look at the things that bring us pain, the one thing we overlook is guilt. The ego is the symbol of our separation from God. Guilt says, I have sinned. I have separated myself off from God. I have sinned. I have done something wrong. Guilt makes us sick. It is the last thing we want to look at. So we keep it buried, and yet only by looking at it can we really be set free of it. We continue to choose to believe that our illusions are real and our projections are justified. Understanding this is crucial. As long as we continue to project our thoughts onto the world, we will be unhappy and we will feel guilty. The mind can project the source of guilt wherever it wants. So it hides guilt in the body, in sickness, in drugs, in food, in alcohol, physical stimulations, addictions, keeping ourselves distracted by the outside world in this way, we never look within. We have to choose right-mindedness. Right-mindedness means listening to the voice for God. Right-mindedness contains the Holy Spirit, the communication link between ourselves and God. Right-mindedness restores the mind to sanity. It means following God's plan for salvation down a straight and narrow path that happily leads us back home to heaven. So let's look at perfect happiness. Do you have any idea how many lives we must have gone through before we even got the first idea that there is more to life than eating or fighting or power in the flock? 1,000 lives, John, 10,000, and then another 100 lives until we began to learn that there is such a thing as perfection. And another 100 again to get the idea that our purpose for living is to find that perfection and bring it forth. And that is from the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And this is probably the very first book, spiritual book that I read when I was a teenager. Perfection is the goal. God is not a person. God does not have a body. God is neither male nor female. Still, it's helpful to imagine or to image the function of God as that which created and loves us, that which is on the inside. Jesus and the Holy Spirit are symbols of the right mind, or the true self, within everyone. They represent a love not of this world. True lasting happiness is perfectly possible. This is what enlightenment is. The world is an unhappy dream. We think within the dream that the truth is yet to be, and yet everyone already knows, already is free, already perfect, and can already see. When we read the word sin in the course, we can substitute the word separation. When we read the word separation, we can use the word sin. Sin is the belief that it is possible to do something against God. The world is ever-changing. Such is the nature of time. The changelessness of heaven is perfect. There are no storms or wars in heaven. God wills you perfect happiness now. Perfect happiness cannot be found in a world of change. Heaven is a decision I must make. We manifest what we make judgments about, and we will continue to manifest everything we make judgments about until we stop judging what we manifest. If you don't like what you are manifesting, don't judge it. The laws of chaos, or lower order laws of the ego, are regressive. Laws of chaos governing illusion are outside of reason's sphere. They separate us and divide, and like a bad disease, they destroy. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth is an insane law. Following this principle, everybody winds up sightless and toothless. Laws of ego diminish us all. The laws of God, which are the laws of happiness, are creative, unifying, and progressive. The laws of God are reparative. They work for the good of all and move us closer to one-mindedness. Higher laws multiply or add to our lives, resulting in abundance. If what we do comes from love, it will be true, in accordance with the will of God. Thus, what we do will lead to greater happiness. Joy, like trust, honesty, tolerance, and gentleness, It's our natural state. Life is joyful when we know we are at all times being directed by the voice of God. So John tells a story about Las Vegas, and if you've ever been to Las Vegas, I think you can probably relate a little bit more. The whole of Las Vegas is a show. It is so mythological, so over the top. It's clearly a fantasy and not to be taken seriously. A friend told me how her husband, having gone to a convention in Las Vegas, called her within 24 hours of arrival and said, "Help! It's all artificial. I need to get out of here. It's all on the outside." Such excitement, while temporarily exhilarating, does not bring peace of mind, nor does it provide lasting happiness. Go to Las Vegas and look. It's all about stimulation of the senses. More and more bling bling, more and more lights, more and more glitz, glamour, glitter, more sex, more food, more drink. We will always be building a Las Vegas somewhere and ever more spectacular shows. The ego lives in a fantasy world. It looks for a quick fix and an easy solution, a shot, a relief, something from the outside, a pill perhaps. The inside is never found on the outside. And we're not surprised to hear that the highest suicide rate in the United States of America is in Las Vegas. Real joy comes in knowing that we are never alone. The Holy Spirit is always with us. God is always with us. The deeper I know this, the deeper my peace, the deeper my tranquility, and hence, the deeper my happiness. Many folks are afraid that death will mean the end of them, and yet it is nothing more than a beginning, and in that there is great joy. To be afraid of death is to be afraid of life. The Holy Spirit's curriculum is never depressing because it is a curriculum of joy, and that comes directly out of A Course in Miracles. To let go of anger and grievances means that the ego no longer exists. The Holy Spirit sees everything as an expression of love or a call for love. All that the Holy Spirit knows is love. So to be joyful is to be natural. To be natural is to be joyful. Why does a bird sing? Because it is the most natural thing in the world for it to do. According to the Course, learning is joyful as it leads us along our natural path and facilitates the development of the people we already are. So I've just touched upon a very minute study of happiness as it relates to us from the teachings of A Course in Miracles. I urge you to pick up the book, Lesson 101, Perfect Happiness by Dr. Jon Mundy, or simply pick up A Course in Miracles and start learning for yourself some of the incredible lessons regarding happiness and love. To conclude from this enlightening book, and I want to go to the next slide, but somehow it got erased when I was having trouble with the slideshow. Real happiness comes from, and I'm just going to go ahead and read these off. Number 1, the successful resistance of temptation. 2, knowing that our actions come from love. 3, letting annoyances go. And 4, the joy of having truly forgiven. And number 5, the restoration of full communication with God. And these come from Dr. Jon Mundy. So, am I God-created or self-created? If I am God-created, then I am of God. And ultimately, all I will know is God. Either love is real and fear is not, or fear is real and love is not. And I am betting on God. Thank you for watching and listening to this talk on perfect happiness. I give you all a warm namaste, and I wish you the very best Sunday and a magnificent week ahead. I know I'm looking forward to the events happening this week, and I'll naturally be working on keeping that mind and self, both with capital letters, active and present. God bless. And with that, let's turn the page. Today's celebration service at 11 o'clock is God is, I am. Next Sunday, our adult education is with James Masters with excerpts from Spiritual Economics by the late Reverend Eric Butterworth. And oh, how much I love the works of Reverend Eric Butterworth, and oh, how I love the talks that James Masters gives. So I really hope you can tune in next week at 9:15 to our class. Our annual meeting is Sunday, January 24th after the 11 a.m. service. Now this is live and online, so take your pick. Come and join us in person by registering online at unityofspringfield.org. Again, I'm wishing you a great day. Give yourself a big, big hug. And I give you my warm namaste.